The morning sun was just starting to peek through the clouds as Andrew Jackson laced up his worn-out running shoes. The 16-year-old's fingers moved quickly, tying the frayed laces with practiced ease. These shoes had seen better days, but they were all he had. Outside his window, the city was waking up, streets coming alive with Sunday morning joggers getting ready for the big marathon. Andrew didn't mind the early hour. He was used to it. Every morning, before most people hit the snooze button, he was already out running. Not on fancy tracks or smooth paths, but on the cracked sidewalks of his neighborhood on the south side. The concrete knew his footsteps well. "You heading out already?" His mom called from the kitchen, where she was getting ready for her hospital shift. Dark circles sat under her eyes, telling the story of too many double shifts and not enough rest. "Just for a quick run, May. I'll be back to help with lunch before you leave," Andrew promised, grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. His mom smiled tiredly. "Always running somewhere. One day you're gonna run all the way to college, you get me?" That was the plan. Running wasn't just something Andrew loved, it was his ticket out. A sports scholarship was his best shot at college, and everyone knew it. His grades were good, but not exceptional. But when he ran, that's when he truly shined. Today's city marathon was a big deal. Professional runners from all over would be there. Andrew couldn't afford the entry fee, but that wouldn't stop him from going. He needed to watch how the pros ran, study their form, their breathing, their pacing. Every little detail mattered. By the time Andrew reached downtown, the streets were packed. Colorful barriers lined the marathon route, and excited spectators cheered as runners zoomed by. Andrew found a good spot near mile marker 20, where runners often hit their wall. This was where you could really see who had trained right and who hadn't. "Look at that form," Andrew whispered to himself, watching a tall runner glide past. He mentally took notes, imagining himself with proper shoes and gear instead of his thrift store finds. The crowd roared as the leading pack passed. Then came the steady stream of serious runners, followed by the casual joggers and charity runners. Andrew watched them all, learning from each one. That's when he spotted her. A girl about his age, wearing top-of-the-line running gear that probably cost more than his mom made in a week. But something wasn't right. Her pace was off, and her face showed pain beyond normal running fatigue. Andrew leaned forward, watching more closely. The girl's hand went to her chest, and her steps became uneven. She was struggling to breathe, her eyes wide with panic. Nobody else seemed to notice. The spectators were focused on the leaders, and other runners were lost in their own marathon battles. Without thinking twice, Andrew jumped over the barrier. A security guard yelled something, but Andrew didn't stop. The girl's knees were starting to buckle. He reached her just as she began to fall. "Whoa, I got you," he said, catching her weight against his side. She tried to speak but couldn't get the words out. Her hand clutched at her chest, and her lips were starting to turn blue. Andrew recognized the signs immediately. His little brother had the same look during his asthma attacks. "Where's your inhaler?" Andrew asked urgently, helping her to the side of the route. She shook her head frantically, pointing back at the route with a trembling hand. "You dropped it." Andrew understood immediately. "Okay, listen to me. We need to calm your breathing. Look at me." The girl's eyes locked with his, frightened but trusting. Around them, the marathon continued, runners flowing past like a river around rocks. To most spectators, they were just another runner helping another. Nobody realized that in this moment, on this ordinary Sunday morning, Andrew wasn't just watching the marathon anymore. He had become an unexpected part of it, and someone's life depended on what he did next. The girl's face was turning paler by the second. Andrew could feel her panic rising as she struggled for air. His mind flashed to all those nights spent in emergency rooms with his brother Tyler, watching nurses and doctors help him through asthma attacks. "You need to slow your breathing," Andrew said firmly but gently. "I know it's scary, but panicking makes it worse." He guided her to sit on the curb, away from the rushing marathon runners. A few people glanced their way, but most were too caught up in cheering for the athletes to notice the unfolding crisis. "I'm Andrew." "What's your name?" he asked, trying to distract her while positioning her body forward slightly to open her airways better. Lily, she managed between gasps. "Okay, Lily, we're going to breathe together. Look at me, not at anything else." Andrew placed his hand on his own chest, exaggerating slow, deep breaths. Copy me. In through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 1, out through the mouth for 6. Lily's frightened eyes locked onto his. Her first attempts were shaky, but Andrew kept nodding encouragingly, counting out loud. That's it. Again. A small crowd began to gather around them. Someone asked if they should call an ambulance. Yes. Andrew replied without taking his eyes off Lily. Tell them it's an asthma attack. A woman in a marathon volunteer shirt pushed through. I'm a nurse. What's happening? Asthma attack. She dropped her inhaler somewhere on the route, Andrew explained, still guiding Lily's breathing. She's doing better but needs medical help. The nurse knelt beside them, quickly assessing Lily. You're doing exactly right. Keep it up while I check her pulse. Minutes felt like hours as they waited. Lily's breathing gradually became less labored, though still worryingly tight. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the marathon cheers. They're coming, Andrew assured her. Just a little longer. Lily reached out and gripped his hand. Thank you, she whispered. It was the first clear word she'd spoken. 2 paramedics arrived with a medical kit. They moved efficiently, placing an oxygen mask over Lily's face and checking her vitals. As they worked, a man with an expensive camera took photos of the scene. Andrew turned away, uncomfortable with the attention. You her friend? One paramedic asked Andrew. No, I just saw she was in trouble. Well, you might have saved her life. Without an inhaler, these attacks can get dangerous fast. The paramedics helped Lily onto a stretcher. As they prepared to take her away, she reached out toward Andrew. Your phone, she said weakly from behind the mask. I want to thank you properly. Andrew hesitated. People like Lily, with designer running shoes and high-end workout clothes, didn't usually move in his circles, but there was something in her eyes that made him pull out his old phone with the cracked screen. One of the paramedics helped them exchange numbers. I'll text you later to see how you're doing, Andrew promised. As the ambulance doors closed, Andrew suddenly became aware of the stairs. People were pointing, whispering. The man with the camera was reviewing his photos. Something about the situation made Andrew uneasy. That was amazing, kid, a marathon official told him. Quick thinking. Anyone would have done the same, Andrew mumbled, eager to slip away. But as he tried to blend back into the crowd, a woman stopped him. I got the whole thing on video. Such a touching moment. A boy from your neighborhood helping that rich girl. It's going to get so many views. Rich girl? Andrew hadn't noticed any of that. He'd just seen someone who couldn't breathe. Please don't put that online, he said, but the woman was already walking away, typing on her phone. Andrew pushed his way through the crowd, jumping back over the barrier. He needed to get home to help his mom before her shift. This whole situation was getting too complicated. He was just trying to do the right thing, not become some viral story. As he jogged away from the marathon route, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Someone had already shared the story. Mystery teen hero saves runner during city marathon. There was a blurry photo of him and Lily. Andrew sighed and picked up his pace. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to change his life in ways he couldn't imagine. By Monday morning, Andrew's ordinary life had split into before and after. Before was simple: school, work, running, helping at home. After was complicated. Andrew, have you seen this? His friend Dion rushed over as soon as Andrew walked through the school doors, phone extended. The video had racked up thousands of views overnight. You're famous, man. I don't want to be famous, Andrew muttered, pulling his hoodie lower. I just helped someone. But fame didn't care what Andrew wanted. All through first period, he felt eyes on him. Whispers followed him down the hallway. His English teacher even mentioned our local hero before starting class, making Andrew sink lower in his seat. During lunch, he finally checked his phone. 23 notifications, including a text from Lily. How do I even begin to thank you? I'm okay now. Doctor's keeping me overnight just to be safe. Can we talk when I'm out? Andrew typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, glad you're feeling better. Sure, we can talk. He had just hit send when a news alert popped up. Teenage hero identified. Local high school student saves Blackwell heiress. Wait, Blackwell? As in Blackwell Industries. The company whose name was on half the buildings downtown. Andrew clicked the link, his sandwich forgotten. There was Lily's full name. Lily Blackwell, only daughter of Richard Blackwell, one of the richest men in the state. The article mentioned her private school, her record-breaking runs, her charity work. And there was Andrew's name too, with details that made him uncomfortable. Andrew Jackson, from the struggling South Side neighborhood. The article painted him as some kind of charity case who had done something extraordinary, not just a person who had helped another person. His phone rang, his mom. Why am I finding out from Mrs. Thompson next door that my son is on the news? Her voice was a mix of confusion and concern. It's not a big deal, May. A girl had an asthma attack during the marathon. I just helped her breathe until the paramedics came. Not a big deal. They're saying she's Richard Blackwell's daughter. I didn't know that, Andrew said honestly. She was just someone who couldn't breathe. There was a pause before his mother spoke again, her voice softer. I raised you right. Pride warmed her tired voice. But be careful with all this attention, okay? People like the Blackwells, they live in a different world. After school, Andrew headed straight to his job at the corner store. He hoped stocking shelves would give him space to think, but even there, customers recognized him. Aren't you that boy from the news? An older woman asked while he was arranging cereal boxes. By closing time, Andrew had answered the same questions a dozen times. His boss, Mr. Chen, had even put the news clip on the store's small TV, much to Andrew's embarrassment. Walking home under streetlights with flickering bulbs, Andrew's phone buzzed again. A new text from Lily. My father wants to meet you. To thank you personally. Is tomorrow after school okay? We could send a car. Andrew stopped walking. A car? To pick him up? From Richard Blackwell? Before he could respond, another text came through. I know this is weird. It's weird for me too. But my dad insists, and he always gets his way. I'm really sorry about all the attention. The sincerity in that last line made Andrew pause. Maybe Lily hadn't asked for any of this either. He looked up at his neighborhood. At the apartment building with the broken elevator where he lived, at the corner where drug dealers sometimes hung out, at the basketball court with missing nets where he sometimes trained when the track was too far. A car from the Blackwells would look very out of place here. But wasn't he curious? About Lily, about her world. About what might happen if these two separate universes collided for just a moment. Andrew took a deep breath and typed, tomorrow's fine. But no car. I'll meet you somewhere. As he pressed send, he wondered if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, or opened a door he never knew existed. Andrew chose the coffee shop 2 blocks from his school as their meeting spot. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and quiet, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. He arrived 15 minutes early, ordered the cheapest tea on the menu, and picked a corner table where he could watch the door. At exactly 4 o'clock, the shop door swung open. Lily walked in wearing jeans and a simple sweater, nothing like what Andrew had expected. Behind her was a tall man in an expensive suit who had to be her father, followed by another man who stood near the door, scanning the room with watchful eyes. That's her security, Andrew realized with a jolt. These people lived in a world where they needed guards. Lily spotted him and waved, then led her father over. Up close, Richard Blackwell looked both more normal and more intimidating than his pictures. His hair was graying at the temples, and deep lines framed his mouth. But his eyes were sharp, studying Andrew with open curiosity. Andrew, Lily said with a genuine smile, this is my dad. Andrew stood and extended his hand. Nice to meet you, sir. Richard's handshake was firm. So you're the young man who saved my daughter. I just helped until the paramedics came, Andrew said, uncomfortable with the word saved. They sat down, and an awkward silence fell over the table. I ordered you both drinks, Richard finally said. I hope that's okay. On cue, a server brought over 2 fancy coffees that weren't even on the regular menu. Thank you, Andrew said politely, though he didn't usually drink coffee. Richard leaned forward. I'll get right to the point. What you did for Lily was extraordinary. Not many people would have acted so quickly or known what to do. My little brother has asthma, Andrew explained. I've seen a lot of attacks. Well, your experience saved my daughter's life, Richard said. The doctor said without immediate intervention, her attack could have become life-threatening. I owe you a debt I can never repay. The intensity in the man's eyes made Andrew uncomfortable. Anyone would have done the same. No, Richard said firmly. They wouldn't have. I've been watching that video. Dozens of people were standing right there, and not one moved to help except you. Dad. Lily cut in, clearly sensing Andrew's discomfort. You're interrogating him. Richard's expression softened. You're right. I'm sorry. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I'd like to show my appreciation in a meaningful way. He slid the envelope across the table. This should help with college expenses. Lily tells me you're quite the runner. Andrew stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. I can't accept that, sir. Of course you can. It's not charity, it's gratitude. Dad. Lily hissed. Her cheeks had turned pink with embarrassment. Andrew swallowed hard. I appreciate the thought, but I didn't help Lily for a reward. I did it because it was right. Richard looked genuinely confused, as if the idea of refusing money had never occurred to him. At least let me help with your education. Lily mentioned you're hoping for a track scholarship. Yes, sir, that's my plan. But those are never guaranteed. Let me make a call too. Mr. Blackwell, Andrew interrupted, surprising himself with his boldness. I'm going to earn my spot. That matters to me. A strange expression crossed Richard's face, something between surprise and respect. He studied Andrew for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I think I understand. He pocketed the envelope. What about a job then? We have an internship program at Blackwell Industries. Good experience, looks excellent on college applications. Before Andrew could respond, the door of the coffee shop burst open. 3 people with cameras rushed in, instantly taking photos. Mr. Blackwell, is this the boy who saved your daughter? Andrew, how does it feel to be a hero? Lily, were you scared during your asthma attack? The security guard moved quickly, placing himself between the cameras and their table. Richard's face darkened with anger. Time to go, he said, standing up. Andrew, I apologize for this. Someone must have tipped them off. As they hurried toward the back exit, Lily grabbed Andrew's arm. I'm so sorry about all this. Not your fault, Andrew said, though his heart was racing. This was a world he knew nothing about. Cameras, reporters, security guards. At the door, Richard turned to Andrew. This conversation isn't over. I'll be in touch. As the Blackwells disappeared into a waiting black SUV, Andrew stood alone in the alley behind the coffee shop, feeling like he'd just been caught in a whirlwind that had blown through his simple life, leaving everything slightly out of place. The next morning, Andrew's face was on the front page of the local newspaper. Hero Meets Blionae read the headline, with a photo of him sitting across from Richard Blackwell. Someone at the coffee shop must have snapped it before the reporters arrived. You didn't tell me you were meeting him yesterday, his mom said, placing the newspaper on the kitchen table as Andrew ate his cereal. It happened fast, Andrew said. Lily texted, and I just went. His mom sat down across from him, concern in her tired eyes. Baby, people like the Blackwells don't just meet with people like us without wanting something. He tried to give me money, Andrew admitted. I didn't take it. His mother's eyebrows shot up. You what? It didn't feel right. I didn't help his daughter for money. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I raised you with pride, but sometimes pride doesn't pay the bills. If he offers again. Andrew nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. Things had been tight since her hours got cut. The fridge was emptier than usual, and he'd noticed her skipping meals. At school, things had gotten worse. Some people treated Andrew like a celebrity, wanting to hear every detail about meeting Richard Blackwell. Others whispered that he was selling out, getting cozy with rich people. He turned down Blackwell money, his track coach said during practice. That true? Andrew nodded, adjusting his worn shoes. Integrity, that's rare. The coach watched him stretch. But you know what? Sometimes opportunities come once in a lifetime. After practice, Andrew found Dion waiting for him. There's a fancy car outside looking for you. Sure enough, a black SUV was parked by the school gate. The driver rolled down the window. Andrew Jackson, Miss Blackwell asked me to give you this. He handed Andra an envelope. Inside was a note written in neat handwriting. Andra, I'm so sorry about yesterday. Those reporters were awful. I'm at the city track at 4:30 today. No dad, no security, no cameras. Just me. I'd like to talk. Lily. Andra stared at the note. The city track was public, neutral ground. What is it? Dean asked. Nothing, Andra said, tucking the note away. But at 4:25, Andra found himself walking through the gate of the city track. It was mostly empty on a weekday afternoon, just a few serious runners doing laps. Lily was easy to spot in her bright blue running jacket. She was stretching by the starting line, her blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked different here, more relaxed, more real. You came, she said when she spotted him, her face breaking into a smile. I was curious, Andra admitted. I haven't thanked you properly, Lily said, without all the circus around it. You don't need to. I do. She took a deep breath, not just for helping me during the attack, but for how you handled my dad. Nobody says no to him. Ever. Andra shrugged. I'm not looking for handouts. It wasn't a handout, Lily said, looking down at her expensive running shoes. But I get why it felt that way. Dad doesn't understand that money can't fix everything. They stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment. Want to run? Lily finally asked. That's why I suggested meeting here. Thought maybe we could just run. No talking necessary. Andra looked at her, surprised. You're cleared to run? After the attack. Doctor said light exercise is fine as long as I have this. She patted the inhaler in her pocket. Besides, running helps me think. For the first time since the marathon, Andra smiled genuinely. Me too. They started slow, finding a comfortable pace side by side. At first, Andra held back, worried about Lily's breathing. But soon he realized she was a serious runner. Her form was excellent, her breathing controlled. I know what people are saying, Lily said after their first lap. That I'm some spoiled rich girl, and you're the poor kid from the wrong side of town. Like we're characters in a bad movie. Andra stayed quiet, because honestly, that's exactly how it had felt. But when we're just running, she continued, none of that matters, does it? It's just about the track, the breath, the rhythm. As they rounded the curve, Andra felt something shift. Here, with their feet hitting the track in almost perfect sync, the worlds they came from seemed to fade away. They weren't a billionaire's daughter and a boy from the projects. They were just two runners, finding their pace together. 2 weeks passed, and running with Lily became the strangest normal thing in Andra's life. 3 times a week, they'd meet at the city track after his practice and her private school let out. They didn't talk much at first, just ran, sometimes for an hour, finding rhythm in their shared silence. But slowly, lap by lap, words began to flow. Why do you run? Lily asked one afternoon as they cooled down. Andra wiped sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. Scholarships mostly. College isn't happening otherwise. But you love it, Lily said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, Andra smiled. When I run, everything makes sense. Problems get smaller. The world gets quiet. He glanced at her. What about you? Lily took a sip from her water bottle. Freedom. At home, everything is managed. My schedule, my diet, my friends. She shrugged. When I run, nobody can control how fast I go or where I turn. Andra nodded, understanding more than he expected to. After practice the next day, Coach Reynolds called Andra into his office. Got some news, he said, closing the door. College scouts are coming to the regional meet next month. Andra's heart jumped. Which schools? Big ones, State, Central, even Old North. The coach leaned forward. This is your shot, Andra. But you need new shoes. Those ones. He pointed to Andra's worn-out runners. They're holding you back. Andra looked down at his shoes. The soles were thinning, the support long gone. But good running shoes cost money they didn't have. That evening, Andra came home to find his mom sitting at the kitchen table with an envelope. This came for you, she said. Her expression was unreadable. The envelope had the Blackwell Industries logo on it. Inside was a letter offering Andra a paid weekend internship in their marketing department. It's not charity, his mom said softly. It's a job. one that pays real well. Andra sat heavily in the chair across from her. I don't know anything about marketing. The letter says they'll train you. She reached for his hand. Baby, I know your pride. But this could help with bills, with shoes for your meat. It's honest work. The next day at the track, Andra told Lily about the offer. Was this your idea? He asked bluntly. Lily shook her head. No, but I'm not surprised. Dad was impressed by you. She hesitated. He's not used to people saying no to him. I think you earned his respect. Andra kicked at the track surface. I need new shoes before regionals. Scouts are coming. Take the job, Lily said simply. Not because we're friends, but because you deserve it. Dad doesn't give internships to people who can't handle them. The weekend position at Blackwell Industries turned out to be actual work, challenging but interesting. Andra helped analyze which company ads appealed to younger customers. His opinions mattered, and the paycheck was real. With his first earnings, he bought proper running shoes. With the second, he helped with the electric bill. By the third weekend, people at Blackwell knew his name, not as the hero kid, but as the intern with good ideas. But not everyone was happy about Andra's new connection. So you're working for the man now, Dean said during lunch at school. Got yourself a rich white girlfriend too. She's not my girlfriend, Andra said sharply. And it's just a job. Yeah? Then why are people saying you're turning your back on the neighborhood? The accusation stung. That evening, Andra skipped meeting Lily at the track. Instead, he went to the community center where he used to volunteer, helping younger kids with homework before his schedule got too full. Mrs. Wilson, the center director, greeted him warmly. Well, look who remembered where he came from. The comment hit harder than she probably intended. I never forgot, Andra said quietly. After helping a 10-year-old with math problems, Andra noticed a flyer on the bulletin board. The community center was at risk of closing, funding cuts. When Lily texted asking where he was, Andra finally replied, Need to talk. Not about running. They met at the small park halfway between their worlds. Lily listened as Andra explained about the community center, about Dean's comments, about feeling caught between two worlds. When he finished, Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, What if we could bridge those worlds instead of choosing between them? How? Andra asked. Lily's eyes lit up with determination. I have an idea, but I'll need your help, and maybe my dad's too. For the first time since the marathon, Andra felt something beyond confusion about his connection to the Blackwells. He felt hope. The city marathon came around again, exactly 1 year after Andra had jumped the barrier to help a stranger. But this time, everything was different. You ready? Lily asked, stretching beside him at the starting line. Both wore official runner numbers. Born ready, Andra replied, but his stomach was full of butterflies, not just because of the race, but because of who was watching. College scouts stood among the crowd. After months of training, his times had improved enough to catch their attention. Coach Reynolds had made sure they knew Andra's name and number. There's your mom, Lily pointed to where Andra's mother stood with Tyler, his little brother. Beside them, looking oddly casual in jeans instead of his usual suit, was Richard Blackwell. The past 3 months had changed so many things. The day after their park meeting, Lily had marched into her father's office with Andra and pitched their idea. A Blackwell Youth Sports Foundation, starting with saving the community center. To everyone's surprise, Richard had listened, really listened. Your old man's actually not that bad when he's not trying to throw money at everything, Andra had told Lily after their third planning meeting. Lily had rolled her eyes. He's still throwing money at things. We're just directing where it lands now. The foundation had renovated the community center, added a proper track, and started programs for kids. But the most important part wasn't the money, it was the mentoring program that paired Blackwell employees with local teens. Remember when all this started? Lily asked now, retying her shoelace, with me not being able to breathe. How could I forget? Scariest moment of my life, Andra admitted. Mine too, but also the luckiest. She straightened up. If I hadn't dropped that inhaler. The starting gun interrupted her thought. They ran side by side for the first few miles, finding their shared rhythm. Andra had worried Lily might hold back to stay with him, but he should have known better. She ran her own race, pushing ahead when he slowed around mile 15. "See you at the finish," she called back. The last 6 miles were the hardest. Every muscle burned, and doubt crept in with each step. But whenever Andrew considered slowing down, he remembered all the early mornings, all the late evenings, all the times he'd pushed through pain to reach this moment. Mile 25. 1 more to go. His legs felt like lead, but the crowd's cheering carried him forward. Somewhere ahead was Lily. Somewhere in the crowd were the scouts who could change his future. The finish line appeared in the distance. Andrew dug deeper, finding one last reserve of energy. As he approached, he spotted Lily waiting just beyond the finish, having completed her run minutes earlier. Crossing the line felt like breaking through a wall. Volunteers draped a medal around his neck and handed him water. His time wasn't first place, but it was his personal best by far. "You did it." Lily threw her arms around him, not caring about the sweat. That was amazing. Andrew's mom pushed through the crowd, hugging him tight. "So proud of you, baby. So proud." Even Richard Blackwell offered a firm handshake. "Impressive run, Andrew." As they made their way through the crowd, a college scout approached. "Andrew Jackson, Coach Thompson from State University. Got a minute to talk about your future." Later that evening, Andrew sat on the steps of the community center, still processing everything. The scout's interest, the potential scholarship, the doors opening that once seemed permanently closed. Lily joined him, 2 ice creams in hand. "Victory treat," she said, passing him one. They sat in comfortable silence, watching neighborhood kids play basketball on the new court. "You know what's weird?" Andrew finally said. "A year ago, I thought saving you was the big moment. Like that one action would change everything. Wasn't it?" Lily asked. "No." Andrew shook his head. The big moment wasn't jumping that barrier. It was everything that came after. All the small choices. Saying no to your dad's money. Taking the internship on my terms. Coming back to the center. He looked around at the place that had been part of his childhood, now renewed but still the same at its heart. It wasn't one big leap that changed things. It was all the small steps we took after. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Small steps can take you pretty far if you keep taking them. As the sun set over the neighborhood, casting long shadows across the basketball court, Andrew realized something important. The distance between their worlds hadn't disappeared, but they had built bridges across it, step by step, choice by choice. And those bridges would last long after the story of a marathon rescue faded from memory.